In this video, we talk about leaping non-chord tones. The following non-chord tones involve a leap of some kind. Either they are approached by leap or they are left by leap. And when I'm saying a leap, I mean an interval that's larger than a second. These include three types: our escape tones, our appoggiaturas, and our neighbor groups, also known as double neighbors. We'll begin with escape tones. Escape tones are approached by step and left by leap in the opposite direction. They are very specific, and it's very common to get this switched. And in the common practice era, this is a very specific formation, so we're approaching it by step, usually upwards, and then leaving it by leap in the opposite direction. Typically, they are diatonic, meaning there's no chromatic notes involved, and they'll occur on a weak or weak part of the beat. Let's take a look at this example. This is a perfect example of an escape tone. So we know that this C is not part of a G major chord, so we circle it and know that it's some sort of non-chord tone. Then we take a look and realize that we are moving first upwards by step, and then we go in the opposite direction by leap. That's what makes an escape tone, that upward movement by step and that downward movement by leap. I had a teacher who talked about this as if you needed to escape from a burning building, which is, I hope no one ever has to do. But if you do have to do that, he created this scenario where first you would step up onto a windowsill and then you jump out to the trampoline below. That would save you. If you don't want to think of it that way, that's fine. But I've thought of it that way, and first, it's made me think of trampolines, and second, it's made me remember what escape tones are all about. You can also think of it like E.T., if you ever saw the movie E.T., where he flies over the moon there. Let's talk now about appoggiaturas. Different theoretical traditions have some different interpretations of what appoggiaturas are. So if you're used to a different definition, I want to open your eyes to this one. If you don't like it, that's fine, but you'll find many people are using this as the definition for an appoggiatura. Meanwhile, the other non-chord tone definitions will offer more specific instances of other dissonances. So when I speak about appoggiaturas, they'll be conforming to this definition. Appoggiaturas typically occur on a strong beat or a strong part of the beat. And importantly, they are approached by leap and resolved by step. So it's kind of the opposite of an escape tone. In this case, we are approaching the note by leap and resolving it by step. Frequently, this is going to be an ascending leap. Here is a little example where that melodic line has that leapt dissonance in the uppermost voice. Because of the emphasis provided by both the leap and the dissonances, appoggiaturas are often considered a particularly expressive gesture. Sometimes people will refer to them as incomplete neighbors. The idea being is that it is neighboring a note and it is incomplete on one side. I prefer to talk about this as an appoggiatura. And here we see that leap and then that downward resolution by step in the opposite direction. Upward leap, downward by step. You can reverse this. You can have appoggiaturas jumping downwards and then resolving upwards by step. That just tends to be a little bit less common. Now we'll talk about neighbor groups or double neighbors. This occurs when two pitches ornament a given pitch. And before I explain it, I think the visual is actually a lot more helpful here. So here we have an A flat major chord. And we have two notes that neighbor that uppermost note, that uppermost C. So if we had an upper neighbor from that C, we'd be going C, D flat, C. And if we had a lower neighbor, we'd be going C, B flat, C. In a neighbor group, we just take out the middleman. We take out that middle note that we would come back to if we did those two neighbors in a row. C, D flat, C, C, B flat, C. And we just state the two different neighbor tones on either side of that C. So that's our quintessential neighbor group. So to go read through the definition, each of the dissonances on their own would appear to be a neighbor tone. One would appear to be an upper neighbor, one would appear to be a lower neighbor. These two pitches occur immediately following each other, not resolving until after both are heard. Thus, they will form the leap of a third, like we have here. Now, just so we know, not every time we have that could qualify as a neighbor group. In this case, in the second chord here, one possible way to analyze this is that this A flat is the dissonance, and this C could actually be harmonic. It could form a C minor chord, in which case we would analyze this as an appoggiatura. Now, I do want to point out, it would also be perfectly fine to say that this is a neighbor group. I think that's how our ear takes it. I'm just saying that now we're getting into the area where there can be multiple ways to interpret things. Certain non-chord tones can feel ambiguous, meaning they can be both one thing and another.